이 방은 겨울에 따뜻합니까?
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Quick Korean. Today we will be studying the lesson 이 방은 겨울에 따뜻합니까? Or is this room warm during the winter? The theme today of today's lesson is dormitories. In this lesson, we will learn about vocabulary concerning objects and words to describe them, and the grammatical points 이, 그, 저, and 지 않습니다. After this lesson, you will be able to describe different places and objects. Also in the culture section, we will explore Ondol, Korean's floor heating system. Now let's take a listen to the dialogue. In today's dialogue, Chunsu is moving into a dormitory. There, he meets his new roommate and talks with him. What kind of questions do you suppose Chunsu would ask? Let's have a listen to their conversation.
이 방은 겨울에 따뜻합니까?
네, 따뜻합니다. 춥지 않습니다.
이 침대가 제 침대입니까?
아니요, 준수 씨 침대는 저 침대입니다.
Were you able to follow along in the conversation? Did you hear what Chunsu asked? Before taking a closer look, let's first take a look at the vocabulary and the grammar that appear in the dialogue. First, let's look at the vocabulary for this section. Please read along and repeat after me. 겨울, 겨울. Now, as you can see in the picture here, it's cold, it's snowing, and it looks like it's winter or 겨울. Please repeat after me one more time. 겨울. Please read along and repeat after me. 따뜻하다. 따뜻하다. In the picture here, you can see that there's a fire lit and it looks pretty warm, or 따뜻하다. Please repeat after me one more time. 따뜻하다. Please read along and repeat after me. 춥다. 춥다. As you can see, compared to the previous picture, there is no fire here, and it looks like it's freezing outside. It looks like it's cold or 춥다. Let's try saying this word one more time. 춥다. Please read along and repeat after me. 제. In this picture, who do you suppose this bag belongs to? Right, as you can tell, it probably belongs to the young man there. As you can see, he is pointing at the bag. Now, he would probably tell the elderly man there that it is his bag. In Korean, he would say, 이것은 제 가방입니다. Or, meaning, this bag is mine. Now, let's say this word one more time. 제. Okay, very well done. Now, let's review the vocabulary that we just gone over in this section. Now, if you look at this picture here, it's snowing, it's cold. What season do you think it is? Right, it's winter, or in Korean, we would say 겨울. Now, in this picture, a fire is lit in the room. What do you suppose the temperature would be? Correct. It would be warm. So in Korean, we would say 따뜻하다. Now this is kind of the opposite situation. Now it looks like it's winter outside again. How do you suppose the temperature is in the winter? Correct. It would be cold. Or in Korean, we would say 춥다. Now, in this picture, we have a bag here, and this bag belongs to the young man on the left. What word would he use to indicate that it is his bag to the elderly man? Correct. The corresponding word to my or mine is 제. Now, let's take a look at the dialogue one more time.
이 방은 겨울에 따뜻합니까?
네, 따뜻합니다. 춥지 않습니다.
이 침대가 제 침대입니까?
아니요, 준수 씨 침대는 저 침대입니다.
Now let's take a look at the dialogue for this lesson. You can see here that Junsu is having a conversation with his roommate here, and he asks him a few questions. The first question he asks is, 이 방은 겨울에 따뜻합니까? And how does the roommate respond? He responds by saying, 네, 따뜻합니다. 춥지 않습니다. And then Junsu proceeds to ask another question. 이 침대가 제 침대입니까? And the roommate responds by saying, well, it isn't. His bed is the other bed. So he responds by saying, 아니요, 준수 씨 침대는 저 침대입니다. Okay. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the grammar. And first we're going to be introduced to 이, 그, and 저. So these words here are used to point out different objects. So let's take a look at this figure here. You can see that we have three objects. We have the desk or 책상. We have a book here or 책. And lastly, we have a table right here. Now, you can see that in this case right here, the desk is very close to Junsu. So how would he refer to the desk close to him? He would say this desk or 이 책상. Now let's take a look at the book here. This book is close to his friend, but far from Junsu. So how would he refer to that book close to his friend? Who is the listener? He would say 그 책. Lastly, if you look at the table here, this table is far from both Junsu, the speaker, and his friend, the listener. So how would he refer to that table? Over there, he would use the word 저 and say 저 table. Now, if we look at a few examples here, we have, in the case of we have 이 방은 겨울에 따뜻합니까? So here, 이 is used to indicate that the room is close to the speaker. Could you please repeat after me? 이 방은 겨울에 따뜻합니까? Okay, good job. Now, if we move to the next example with 그, remember 그 refers to an object that is close to the listener but far from the speaker. So if we look at an example here, we have 그 가방은 제 가방입니다. Meaning, this, we see that we have 그 here, so we can imagine this 가방 or bag is close to the listener, and whoever's saying this is indicating that the bag that's close to the listener is actually that person's bag. So, could you please repeat after me? 그 가방은 제 가방입니다. Okay, good job. Now, if we look at the last marker here, 저. Remember, 저 is used to refer to an object that is far from both the speaker and the listener. So if we look at an example here, you can see that, remember from our dialogue, the roommate said, 준수 씨 침대는 저 침대입니다. So he used 저 here to indicate that the bed is far from both the roommate and 준수. So could you go ahead and please repeat once after me? 준수 씨 침대는 저 침대입니다. Okay, well done. Now, if we go to the next grammatical point here, we have 지 않습니다. So, 지 않습니다 is used to express the negative or that something is not something. So, if we take a look at an example here, we see we have our 춥다 right here and combined with the 않습니다. So, what this tells us is we know 춥다 means cold, but by attaching this 지 않습니다, what it's telling us is it is not cold. So, could you please go ahead and repeat after me? 춥지 않습니다. Okay, good. Now, if we look at another example here, we have 방이 크지 않습니다. Recall, 크다 means big and 방 is room. So what this is telling us is the room here is not big. So it's saying that something is not something, right? As you can see here. So could you go ahead and please repeat the example after me? 방이 크지 않습니다. Okay, good job. Now let's take a look at the usage of this grammatical pattern. You can see that you have the 지 않습니다 here. And in the case with 춥다, what happens is the 다 here is removed and this 지 않습니다 is directly appended to the verb stem 춥 here. So when you combine it, you get 춥다 plus the 지 않습니다. The 다 is removed. Similarly, you can see in this case with 크다, the 크다 is combined with 지 않습니다. And again, this 다 is removed to form 크지 않습니다. So would you go ahead and please repeat after me? 춥다, 지 않습니다. 춥지 않습니다. Okay, one more time with the example on the bottom. 크다, 지 않습니다. 크지 않습니다. Okay, very well done. Now let's go ahead and take a listen to the dialogue.
이 방은 겨울에 따뜻합니까?
네, 따뜻합니다. 춥지 않습니다.
이 침대가 제 침대입니까?
아니요, 준수 씨 침대는 저 침대입니다.
Now let's take another look at the dialogue and read it together. Please listen along and repeat after me. 이 방은 겨울에 따뜻합니까? 네, 따뜻합니다. 춥지 않습니다. 이 침대가 제 침대입니까? 아니요, 준수 씨 침대는 저 침대입니다. Now let's go through this dialogue once more. This time, you play the role of 준수's roommate.
이 방은 겨울에 따뜻합니까? 이 침대가 제 침대입니까?
Now let's go through the dialogue once more. This time, you play the role of 준수.
네, 따뜻합니다. 춥지 않습니다. 아니요, 준수 씨 침대는 저 침대입니다.
Now it's time for the speaking practice section of this lesson. We will practice using the vocabulary and grammatical points that we learned earlier in this lesson. Now in this exercise, we want to choose the correct answer to go in the blank based on the picture presented to us. Now in this section, we want to know how much certain bags cost. How much is this bag? How much is that bag? How much is that bag over there? Now, in this picture here, we see that the man there is pointing to a bag that is close to him. How do you suppose he would ask how much this bag is? Correct. He would ask by saying, 이 가방은 얼마입니까? Now this time, the bag is closer to the listener or salesperson there, and he wants to know how much that bag is. How would he ask the salesperson how much that bag is? Correct. He would ask by saying, 그 가방은 얼마입니까? Now this time, he's pointing to a bag that's far away from both he and the salesperson there. How would he ask how much that bag over there is to the salesperson? Correct. He would ask, 저 가방은 얼마입니까? In this exercise, we will use the 지 않습니다 grammatical pattern that we looked at a little earlier to answer the question. Now, in this exercise here, the question 옷장이 큽니까? Or is the wardrobe big? Is being asked. How would you answer by saying that it is not big? Correct. You would say, 아니요, 옷장이 크지 않습니다. Now, in this picture, the elderly man is looking at a newspaper. Now, how do you suppose his eyes are? In Korean, the question is being asked, 눈이 좋습니까? Or is his eyesight good? How would you answer that question? Well, judging by the fact that he's wearing glasses, you would probably can assume that his eyesight is not perfect. So you could answer by saying, 아니요, 눈이 좋지 않습니다. Now, we move on to the listening portion of this lesson. The following is a conversation between Chunsu and his roommate. What do you think Chunsu would ask to his roommate? Listen to the conversation very carefully.
이 방은 조용합니까?
네, 조용합니다. 시끄럽지 않습니다.
이 책상이 제 책상입니까?
아니요, 준수 씨 책상은 저 책상입니다.
Were you able to hear everything in the conversation? Well, we'll be answering a few questions here to make sure that you understood the conversation. In the following questions, please choose the correct answer. Let's look at the first question here. Number 1, 방이 어떻습니까? Or, how is the room? We have two answer choices here. 시끄럽습니다, or loud, or 조용합니다, or quiet. How is their room? Correct. Based on the conversation, the room is quiet, so we'd answer 조용합니다. Now in the next question here, question 2, the question asks, 준수의 책상은 어느 책상입니까? Now recall that Chunsu was standing somewhere near the front, and what did his roommate tell him? Was it number 1, 저 책상, or number 2, 이 책상? Correct. If you recall the conversation, they were standing in the front, and the roommate told him it was that desk over there, 저 책상, or the one in the back. So it would be number 1. Now we move on to the vocabulary plus section of this lesson. Here we will look at a few object words and descriptive verbs. So the first word we have here is 우산. Now, based on the picture, you can see it is an umbrella. So you can see that in the picture, there are umbrellas, so you'd say 우산이 있습니다. Now the next word here is 신발. Now if we look at the shoes there, are they clean? Well, they look pretty clean. In fact, they look to be new shoes. So we could say, how would we say that the shoes are clean? We would say 신발이 깨끗합니다. Now in this next picture we have 옷 or clothes. Now if we look at the clothes there, are they clean? Well, yes, it looks like they are recently washed and they're being hung to dry. So therefore, the clothes are clean. So in Korean, how would we say that the clothes are clean? We would say 이 옷이 깨끗합니다. Now the next word here is 휴지 or tissue. If you look at the picture here, is there tissue in the bathroom? Yes. As you can see, there is tissue in the bathroom. So in Korean, how would we say that there is tissue? We would say 휴지가 있습니다. Now we have two words here, 비싸다 and 싸다. Now in the picture we have two bags. Now how much is the one on the left? Well, the one on the left, if you can read it there, says 300만 원 or 3 million won. Wow, that's pretty expensive. And on the right there, it says 3만 원 or 30,000 won. Now, if we move on, how is this bag on the left? It's pretty expensive, so we'd say 가방이 비쌉니다. Now, if we compare this to the bag on the left, relatively, it's pretty inexpensive or cheap. So you could say 가방이 쌉니다. Now, the next word here is 예쁘다. In the picture here, we have an article of clothing. So it's sparkling. How would you describe the article of clothing there? One word you might want to use is pretty. So how would we say that the article of clothing is pretty? We would say 이 옷은 예쁩니다. Now this word here is 친절하다. You can see in the picture here that Junsu is helping an elderly woman on the street here, and you could see that it is a very kind act. So if I were to ask you, is Junsu kind? How could you respond? You could respond by saying, yes, he is kind, or 준수는 친절합니다. Now, in this, we have two rooms, a room on the left and a room on the right. And obviously, as you can see, there are some differences between the two. Now, let's first look at room A. Is there an umbrella in room A? Yes, as you can see on the desk there is an umbrella. So how would you answer that there is an umbrella? You would say 우산이 있습니다. Now, as you can see in both rooms, there are a pair of shoes. But in room A, are the shoes clean? Well, no, the shoes look kind of dirty. So how would we say that the shoes are not clean? We would say 신발이 깨끗하지 않습니다. Now let's take a look at room B. Are there a lot of clothes in room B? Well, let's count the articles here. We have 1, 2, 3. Well, it looks like there's only 3 articles of clothing, so it doesn't look like there are a lot of clothes. So how would we say that there are few clothes? we would say 옷이 척습니다. Now, in room B, is there tissue? Well, there's tissue in room A, but in room B, there are no tissue. So, how would we say that? We would say 휴지가 없습니다. Very good. Now we will take a look at Korean culture. Today, we will examine the heating system known as Ondol.
한국의 난방법 온돌. 침대를 사용하는 한국 사람이 늘고 있지만 한국의 전통적인 생활 방식은 온돌방에 앉아서 생활하는 것입니다. 한국인은 온돌방의 따뜻한 방바닥을 좋아합니다. 그래서 한국의 아파트는 외국과는 달리 온돌 방식으로 난방을 합니다.
Now, let's review the material that we covered today. Recall today's theme was dormitories. In the vocabulary section, we learned about items found in rooms and words to describe them. We also looked at 이, 그, 저, which is used to refer to items, and the negative 지, 않습니다. Lastly, in the culture section, we learned about the Korean heating system, Ondol. What about you? What is in your room? Is there a desk? Also, is the desk big or is it small? Now you know how to answer these questions, right? Well, that brings us to the end of this lesson. See you next time.